So Caswell is a vendor man from the Limpopo province of far northern South Africa, near its border with Zimbabwe. Went to the University of Venda, and then 10 years ago moved across to the University of KwaZulu-Natal in Pietermaritzburg, where he's been there for 10 years, now associate professor. So Caswell is Africa's leading ant biodiversity scientist, but he's also got a particular interest in edible insects and other invertebrates. So if it's good enough for pangolins, it's good enough for us. And this is what Caswell is going to be talking to us today. Thanks, Caswell.
It's quite amazing that I can hear Chivenda, the language, many kilometers away from South Africa. So Chivenda is one of the 12 languages official that we speak, with many other dialects in there that we speak as well. Yeah, so I sort of put this talk together. Usually I'll be speaking ants, like and thank you everyone for coming to listen to my story. It's not every day when you get audience to listen to your stories. I mean, I take it as a privilege. But people can see when I listen to your stories. So it's a very huge privilege to be here. And thank you for arranging the RIEL Seminar. So I thought I should speak about this topic, entomophagy, which is just eating of insects. But today I thought, no, let me skip the cultural part. You know, the cultural entomology will speak about the myth, the legends, all those things as the introduction to that other game Winsley was talking about. But I'll speak about entomotherapy, something that I am also involved with right now. Let us work on that, and I'll talk about that a bit later. Yeah, so I'll speak entomophagy, entomotherapy, instead of cultural entomology, which I have got stories for days with it as well. Marianne will tell you about some of the myths and stuff that I've been sharing with them in the past week. And finally, I will talk about the insect values loss in the continent, but particularly with few examples of what's going on in my own place where I study, because I study that mostly. So as Ellen said, I am from that University of KwaZulu-Natal, and I've just got promoted to an associate professor just a week ago when I was with Ellen, when I arrived here, a day after I arrived here. Yeah, so this is Africa, as we all know it. It's the second largest continent after Asia, and also, of course, following with one of the biggest population as well in the world. Its population is projected to even increase more as we progress and stuff. But what sort of I put this here, because Africa is although it's home to many natural resources and food resources, it still remains some of the world poorest regions. I think there's 22 of the 26 very poor countries, with countries like Burundi and Ethiopia, sort of like at the most poorest and stuff. And of course, we've got this diverse bioculture that I want to talk about now, and particularly just focusing on entomophagy, something that we've practiced for ages, all of us. So for many years, for some time now, people have thought early hominids just eat meat, you know, because it's what can be easily documented by ecologists. You can find bones, stone tools, all those sort of things. But think about it, before the invasion of the stone tools, the tools to farm, what do you think early hominids did? The easiest pickings would have been insects, you know, and this we evolved with as humans, and although some of us have dropped it, I feel like inside the body there's a need to feel that void, because the early humans for hominids, they sort of use insects a lot, they consume a lot, not just the meat that we're eating now. So yeah, this is bringing me to this issue of entomophagy, which is just eating insects, which this continent or this continent, also called the continent, have not seen much of it. And you'll see it in the next few slides when I talk about it. This is a very important human diet. Before, of course, we invented the tools to hunt, the farming thing, whatever, farming as a society or as humans. Just 128 countries globally consume insects really as part of their traditions. And of these ones, only 3 is deeply rooted in 3 continents. Asia being really leading, and then what would they call Latin America, mostly Mexico, and then Africa at number 3. And the fact that Africa is number 3 with those numbers, it speaks to many things that I'll talk about later. I don't think we're number 3 with it. It's the same thing that Alan has been trying to show for the rest of his life now. Say that Australia is the center for energy, and like there's so much energy, compared to same thing with the edible insects. I think we do have a lot of them, but we'll talk about that now. So the most consumed groups are caterpillars of these butterflies and moth, the order Lepidopterus, followed by the beetles, crabs, and grasshoppers and termites, which I'll talk more about, which Pauline loves as well. And I'll talk about this more today. There's been around 2,205 recorded edible sort of species in 128 countries. By recorded, we mean those that are in the literature. And this is where Africa lags now, because not everything that is consumed in Africa is in the literature because of lack of studies. And I'll delve into that shortly. So we know that for places like Africa, where millions of people go to bed hungry, or if they don't go to bed hungry, they're just eating irrelevant things or things that are not nutritional, that lacks all these key nutritional content, protein. Protein is quite an expensive thing. Growing up, eating meat has been a privilege, because you can't find it. Although we are keeping cattle or chickens and everything as livestock, you don't have it really available that you can kill every day and feed yourself. So the protein like this, which is widely available in the bushes, it is readily available and cheap, easy. You can just pick it up without needing so much. So protein, fat, vitamins, minerals are in abundance in these things. So that dish, I consumed it. That's the picture on top there. That's my picture. Before I consumed it, I snapped that shot. The other day I was moving Ellen's collection, and then I saw he had a lot of these orthopterans, grasshoppers. And I saw these edible things. I was telling him that I feel like I should just take them off the pins and go fry them. So Ellen was not going to have it that I eat this specimen, of course, and stuff. Yeah, so this is the paper from these African colleagues of mine from Nairobi, Kenya, in what's called ICP, and also in Uganda, and those from University of Pretoria. And they did this study last year, wherein they sort of showed the global distribution of confirmed, because edible insects, but confirmed, those that are really sort of documented in literature. So as I said, the Latin America, particularly Mexico, and then Asia follows, and Africa is the third. And Mexico, they consume the highest amount of these insects, with just around 100 and something as a country. But Asia consumed plus or minus of the 2,205, they consume 932 species at large. So what is being consumed mostly is the colectrans, the crabs and stuff. It's what amazing, and followed by the doctrines and stuff like that. So these little pie charts actually show exactly what I'm talking about. But you can see the bigger these pie chart, the more species have been documented in a particular country. So you can see the continents, it's mostly Latin America, North America, and then going to Africa and Asia. That's where this is happening. And with Australia, you can lie that you are eating. And that's just worrisome. Because I'm not talking about this now. Why is it worrisome? Okay, and so entomophagy is discussed in the world. Let's see, the red is where entomophagy is not being practiced. And a week ago, I asked Ellen when Kakadu, I said, is anything you tell me? And not that I know of, except some maybe few stuff, few stuff that not documented. Yeah. So this is just proving what I was just talking about: Asia, Africa, and Americas. That's what thing consuming majority of what is being eaten. These countries, these part weights is like, of course, that's where it's accepted. But this is what I found. It's strange, or it's a culture that people are just dropping, they're living it. Okay, so let's just zoom in into this continent. This continent, the Congos, right in the middle, the DRC leads in the number of species that are consumed, with just around 400 and something, because there's 500, just about 500 species that are consumed in the country now, in the continent now, with the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, leading the pack. and followed by just above them, that's the Cameroon with another 100 or so, and South Africa just 50 something, species. That's it. That's how much we consume and stuff. Most of the places, not really much have been documented, but I'll talk about which parts of Africa consume which sort of insect short. Yeah, this is what makes me sort of say, we all know that the record shows that almost everyone left us and went about their ways, as you can see in this sort of human migration, human Homo sapiens, Homo Netherlands, or whatever, Homo erectus. So they move around the world, and this practice has been so it's traditional. If earlier humans were eating these insects, so we all, as we move, this is what we were living. We had it in us, but it looks like as you move around, you dropped most of it. So that particular person, he wrote in his paper, said that eating insects has long made sense in Africa. I think it's just been a practice at home, which will drop as they go. But I think we can go back to it, provided that whatever that we're using today for protein is bad for what they are. People argue that, oh man, even keeping insects can be bad and everything. But livestock and all these things, we know what they are and sort of thing. So maybe, I don't know, in the future, maybe we try to find that we turn back to the ancestral rights and we start consuming insects because they're easy to keep, cheaper, and we don't have so much greenhouse gas emissions and all these space issues and water use and also related problems that we're facing as the world today. Okay, so let me go back again to Africa. There they are speaking for this study of documented 464, but actually it's 500 something now that are being insect species that are consumed across the continent. And the lepidopterans, the caterpillars of these, we don't really eat the adults. No one eats adults at all. Anyone eats the caterpillar, which in the next slide you'll see why. Because they're juicy, nice, just like any, we call it a wors, but here you call them sausage. Wors, we call it here. Just sausage that. Yeah, we call it wors, let's say. Yeah. So they are really like the most consumed group of the insects, and then beetles, follows, and also trends, those ones that I wanted to eat from Ellen's collection. But they are the third most consumed. Yeah, I was not going to enter. Yeah, I think he was going to get my visa cancelled because they worked so much hard for those other planets. Anyway, so that's how to see the number of edible insect species reported in Africa, put by order. But this is what is confirmed by then, 464. But this number is 500 and something now. Yeah, I don't know if that is appetizing to you. But yeah, this is how Malaysia looks like. So this is the caterpillar of this, and that's what we'll pick, and then it will pick and then sort of discarded, and it will be boiled with salt and sun-dried, and it's ready to be eaten as a snack, which Ellen can testify about it, and Marian can testify about it. They've had it 13 years ago when they visited Venda. My late mother took time and just prepared all these dishes, and some of them, and then they really feasted. But I only asked Ellen yesterday that I ignored that food it's a cultural thing, so it varies from one group of food to the next. There are things that I eaten here. I'm like, yo, can't remember these things. This is one of those sort of worms that compared to Malaysia and Zambia. This is Saturnet. Most of these worms that I show are coming from family Suchmidae. And go next. Yeah. This is another Comprenitia, same genus. So they will try to have all these thorny things, say, stay away from me, whatever, but we eat them with all those thorns and everything. We don't mind. I mean, that's for other things. It doesn't risk us as the consumers of these sort of things. Here's something that is eaten mostly. We see the Serena fauna. That's more commonly this is the more widely dispersed and widely eaten across Africa, so east to south. This Serena fauna. It's growing up as a young person. You go out to head cattle. This is what you come back with in the evening. Pick it, you just salt it, boil it, put salt, and then put cooking oil. Nice, tasty, crispy. So when I speak already, saliva is playing. I just want to change quickly, okay? And these two, yeah. So these two as well. All these colorfulness and whatever, scary, whatever, now to the birds and other reptiles, but not to the us who eat them. So we will catch these caterpillars and we'll eat them across in most parts of the continent. This one too. This is actually this is very nice. When it's boiled, sun dried, it turns brown. Yeah, it's just amazing. Very expensive too, and I'll cover it just now and that sort of thing. But the worm that we know mostly is this one. This is what we call mopani worm. Owing it to this particular plant species, those who have been to the Kruger National Park, you've seen stretches and stretches of land covered by this tree called mopani tree, which is a very good tree in terms of elephants love it, could also chew it. This tree is so much in trouble because mopani will primarily feed off the leaves of this plant tree. When they are done with it, it will just be sticks left, and elephants are pushing it. Kudus are eating it, like I said. So this mopani tree is the really primary source for them. So these ones are ready for being harvested. They're almost in the final stage before they can climb down the tree and go ahead in the ground. And just before they do that, that's when we collect them. Traditionally, they're collected as they come out of the tree, as they're climbing down the tree, because then they are sort of ready to be harvested. But because of commercial issues that I talk about now, people now are planting trees, they're chopping down the trees, all those things. So this tree is quite in trouble because also the wood, it's an excellent wood. What we call barbecue, braai. With the braai barbecue, this is the best wood for it. So the tree is going through the most and stuff. But I want to talk more about this one on Marcia Belina. So this is where it gets more interesting. So there's a couple of years in the last 20 whatever years, this has become now a multi-million dollar, not Zimbabwean dollars or South African rands, but US. Cross-border trade industry in Mopani in Southern Africa, particularly between South Africa and Botswana, which is a country with us, and also part of Namibia. So these two countries mostly selling them through South Africa, because South Africa, the demand is so huge that our natural Mopani farm cannot now meet what is being the supply is currently there. And this is being harvested in bags and bags. And when it's around December and around March, April, you see trucks coming off the two countries into South Africa. And people make a living out of this now. There's quite a lot. You can even order chocolate. So it's being commercialized in a way that there's even chocolates now that are made and infused with small honey, grinded or whatever. So it's big, but most of it is sold. That's dried, sort of a nice meal, sort of ready to be eaten. So this is a street vendor at the town called Toho, which the University of Venda is found, where Ellen will be said a couple of times, just outside the Kruger National Park. So this mother of this street vendor, she's selling, here is the Granisa, and that is also the Mopani as well. So that's two caterpillars that are dried, sun-dried, they're decutted, and then they're boiled, as I said, and then they're sun-dried. So she's selling those. That's just me doing some questionnaire work there, sort of asking about the economical value and sort of things, which I'll talk about the results of it just now. And yeah, that's just, this is when you go to this part of the town, there's just people who are sitting selling this. They make a living out of it. They make very good money out of it, based on what we asked them in their study. This is in Zimbabwe. What we see is, so when we say it's a very good one, you should have that yellow color inside. So that means it's fresh and its taste is very good. So we'll break it in pieces. When you buy it, you don't just break it. If it's black or whatever inside, no, it's not taste well. So it was not decutted very well. We didn't remove it as well. So it should be like that. The other side is just dried vegetables on the side, which you had this in your dish too. It's a dried vegetable as well. Okay, and yeah, then it leads me to this study, which we did, which I was co-authoring with the colleagues from, is it London? What college? University of London College in the UK, wherein we studied the potential decline and distribution of food provision services for this Mopani felt in Southern Africa. Where we say this in Russia, these caterpillars might, particularly the primary food of this caterpillar might shrink and disappear with time. Don't know what about the writing, but the whole thing that I'm trying to say that there might be 20% decline in the habitat for these, as these mopane worms are shrinking or disappearing right in our face. Either they're being pulled by many things, most of it, of course, the biggest elephant in the room is climate change, of course. It doesn't matter how much some of the world does refuse it and everything, but we model that 70%, up to 70% of this habitat can decline. Particularly, it's hitting the two countries that South Africa's supply. We cannot meet our demand now, and now the supply comes from Botswana and Zimbabwe, and if it continues disappearing out of those countries, then we're in trouble, right? So of course, then this will explain loss of a very important protein source, and the key thing is the household income that this brings to those societies. And this is the models, this is where mopane worm is found, just there on top of South Africa, into Zimbabwe and Botswana, and into a bit of Namibia and stuff there. And this is the present distribution of the mopane threat as it is. Yeah, it was 2041, 2060, it might be starting to disappear and get worse in the 2080s, that it might disappear in the other countries. Okay, that's what the model says, but there are many factors, of course, that goes with that. Most of it that we are finding now, it's actually the unsustainable way we're going about its harvest. The trees, the tree cell, how we are treating the tree as well, and how basically the way we are working, the whole unsustainable way that we're moving away from the traditional ways of doing things, which was more sustainable. To once we put something commercial, everyone wants to harvest to finish, because now it's profit driven and it becomes a problem. So when you publish papers like that, it invites a lot of media attention, and sometimes you need that media attention because then you can reach people who matter, people who on the ground. Because otherwise, if it's published, it's embedded between me and some scientists and so understand it. But when it goes out, so the Manga Bay, I think it's an based sort of thing. So the week after it was published, they asked for an interview, we did that, published something with them, and then it came back home in our own Times Life newspaper at home in South Africa. And the title sounded like it was like, it actually been put more effort, which we needed that. Declining mopane worm, harvest already having a serious effect. And the news also, the live television news picked it up as well. Then for the first time, I found myself going to this is like peak television time, 7:45 a.m. Because this is something that everyone wants to hear, and I was really grateful for that platform, because that's what we want to do as a scientist. I can speak and in these scientific conferences and all those things, but the people on the ground, people that we do this for, they don't really see what we do. So that was very, very good last year. That was last year in November. I went back again this year because there was a story of people who tried to smuggle ants out of Kenya. I don't know if you saw that story. It reached the news as well, and then I was called quickly as well. I only able to speak that too. So these are the kind of things that we need, so that we can get to connect to people on the ground who really need to hear this science of us. Anyway, let's go back to the insects, and now let's leave the caterpillars and focus on other things. What I call grasshoppers, but this is a very nice dish. Mostly, in where I come from, it is not sold. It's not commercially harvested. It's harvested for one to eat. This is me one day. So I go to the field sometimes to collect ants, and I would just take a small little bush and bush around the beat around the grasses. Since fly, you pick up one by one, remove the feathers, put in hot water, and there you go. Then you get a meal. That was a meal that I prepared for myself on that particular day, and I showed the picture, so you see there. So it's quite a lot of species, but unfortunately, our taxonomy as traditionally, it's just not so good. So we can call one thing multiple species, just one or two species. So there's quite a lot going on there if you were to pick up one at a time. If you were to look at that. But this is fried. This is boiled first, with salt, and then when the water disappears, then we put the oil, and then so you eat them. Okay. Yeah, this is in Chad. It's not in South Africa. This is where now it's commercial. This is a big pot, you can see. This is a street vendor, because it's just a picture that I picked up online. The street vendor selling this. This is now commercial. So people will eat this. You see this, you go to Asia, Asian countries, you see all this sort of stuff, but this is in Chad. It's quite a, when you look at it actually, you might think that, of course, I mean, this is quite a lot of species of trees, autochthons in there, but to the locals, it might be just a couple of 5 or 10 species. And this is where I have a serious issue that I think we really need to document this so that we can catch up with the 932 that Asia is already using and stuff like that. Because we've got quite a lot of pieces that are different. And this is termites that pangolins enjoy a lot as well. These are the Macrotemis, the genus. So we eat the soldiers, the big heads ones, because the harvesting of these involve taking long sort of grass. It's a sedge. I don't know what a sedge is. Sort of you cut that into halves, you dry it. When it's dry, you cut it. You just go to the mount, to the termite mount, cut, expose some little tunnels. You sort of force that thread or whatever grass into the hole. The soldiers, of course, will do what soldiers do. They will fight. As they fight, they just get stuck in this. You pull out that whole thread and into the bucket. And doing that. But doing that, those who harvest this, you look at their hands, they will have so much cuts. Because these blades, the mandibles here, they just easily cut into your skin like 2 swords. Easily. So when you harvest this, you'll have so much cuts in your hands. And stuff. But we do have it. On the other side, it's the alex, it's the queens that flies now whenever it's raining and stuff. And the traditional method of catching them, it's just amazing as well. And which I won't describe it, but it's quite an amazing way that we do. So this is more expensive compared to this. You should understand. These are more as compared to those other ones. Although they come in high numbers. And 2, in the menu, but not really to be commercially sort of sold, but something like this African fish and well, that gas, that bag there, that's where the juiciness. That's very nice. Right at the end. So you pick it up. You've seen this in documentaries. There's one well documented in Malawi where kids, they wait when it's raining, it's coming out, pick up, grab by the top end. The other one, roll like that. So this is more of a not really per se as commercialized. Some of the people can just eat from them. So then it brings me to this topic of entomotherapy. I think before all the across the world, of course, all as we evolve, of course, would have used a lot of these as well, plus plants to treat very many elements, disease, whatever it is. It's something that I picked up in the last few years as I was speaking to Entomophagy. Now I've recruited a PhD student. She's on a second year now, and she's working particularly on this entomotherapy in Africa, just to bring this knowledge. Because like anywhere else, traditional knowledge or what you call traditional is not documented. So it passed from the elders to the young youth and whatever, and then if the youth don't care about it, then it's gone. So now we are trying to document this stuff and using the sort of sending students to sort of document, put this in writing so that we see how we can preserve this knowledge. So there are few studies in Africa that really look into this, and most of them are, and you can see that's a West African study, Benin too, just almost there as well, but almost nothing. If you look into literature regarding entomotherapy in the continent, it's well done by Asia, particularly the Chinese. Have done a wonderful job, with this to document these sort of things. So these indigenous knowledge systems that are associated with the use of these insects, for all these medicinal purposes. And of course, the Western medicine have been using this at a much more advanced level, which we appreciate and everything. But we, as humans, all of us, we've been using this. Traditionally, when we move between places, this knowledge now is disappearing and stuff. So this is the latest study, sort of review, that's a comprehensive review that looked at sort of the potential of insects for medicinal purposes. And they found only 235 insect species that are used globally for this sort of role, and as expected, nutrients, all those poisons and all sorts of things. So they lead the pack there. Coleopterates are always in trouble. They are second in the list. Lepidopterans really at the end. Blattodea, I'll tell you a quick story about Blattodea, which is the cockroaches. Where I come from. When a kid or a person wet the bed, we give them a peeled millipede to stop wetting the bed. The peeled millipede, the smell that just looks like it. give like a pound, like a pound report. They give in that to stop waiting the bed. But the plants are eaten and also they are used in so sort of thing. So these are the stuff that this review found. Anyway, it led me to so this is what you see that people usually this is what is treated. Number of insect species that are used to alleviate diseases and stuff. The diseases are sort of these ones, particularly the digestive ones and the respiratory ones and the skin. Those three are the most of the diseases that are used. That's how and everything. I can't tell about that, but those are the three most respiratory ones, and probably the digestive related and skin related things. This is what it's used for. I don't know if the skin also has to do with when you cut. This is documented in the world. When you got cuts and you get two ants to munch the mandibles in there and then stitch yourself, whatever. I don't know if that has to do with that. Okay, so I invited this student, which again, if you remember that face, that's Sneh. Sneh Tambo. She is now a PhD student second year. She also worked for the two big universities in the country. This other one is the second last born. It's 10 years old. And I thought, let us look into the traditional knowledge and practices associated with medicinal, religious, and cultural use of these invertebrates in the country. And as part of a first chapter, she did a systematic review, which I think she submitted last week or something. And just across South Africa, just looking at Africa, because there is one for the global, which has sort of left some gaps there. So there's just 20 studies that we can really talk about there with just other important species that are used. Sort of sorting out quite a lot of circums or alignments, and Benin, where majority of the studies are coming from, which makes sense. So it leads with the number of species that have been seen there. But insects really are the most used sort of groups, followed by gastropods. Gastropods, in our traditional illness, you've seen when they throw the bones. When you put consult, we don't, when you go to a traditional doctor or healer, they don't take something and start touching you or whatever. They look at you, you throw the bones. From the bones, they can read what is eating you without touching you. It's just, you sit in the consultation room, they throw the bones. When the bones, throw the bones, some of it with these shells, gastropods. Throw the bones and tell what, it's beliefs, As I said, you can never underestimate the power of beliefs. Okay, so I came into this space of entomophagy because I invited the student. Now she's a colleague of mine, former master's and PhD student. We've been colleagues for the past 3 years. Nolo was a one. That's the first release, officially. I started looking into entomophagy in South Africa, particularly in these two provinces. The Congo province, where I come from, on the state, and KwaZulu-Natal, where I work in the past 10 years now. And as part of a first study 5 years or so ago, she published a systematic review, which sort of looked into Africa and edible insects and between 2000 and 2019. And there's no question about it that it's been well documented that these edible insects are nutritional. And the palm weevil, which is amazing. And the Serena that I talked about earlier, it's one of those leading, mostly on the West and Central Africa. These two are most. Of course, it's not the beetle that's eaten, but it's the caterpillars, the grubs, which you've seen in many things. I've never eaten those before, and I don't think I'll eat either. But it's within the same continent. We don't in the south. We don't have those. You see, just in so we have what this. We're able to eat the caterpillar any other day, but I will not eat those because those will look like, exactly how you see the other ones, sort of thing. So, but when you go to the east, it's gastropods. Surely that's in countries like Kenya. This is mostly these species, these two species focused on in East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, and the likes. Whereas in the south, we love our caterpillars. As I've shown, we love our caterpillars. Including the mighty Mopanwe. So this study that Nola did for a PhD was focusing on my own province, and I come from the north there. I'll talk about it just now, and also KZN. Quickly, because time. So we found out in one of the second chapters that between the two provinces, 10 more minutes. Okay, good. Between the two provinces, KwaZulu-Natal, when you ask people if they still practice entomophagy, Very few people are doing that, you know. But in Limpopo, where I come from, people, majority of the respondents show that we still they eat this, the young and the old. This we just did from like 16-year-old up to like the oldest person that we can get hold of. But it's clear that as you go to South Africa, across the states or provinces, as you call them, this practice is declining, and that's what is happening in a country where most people going to bed. There's difference between going to bed with something in your stomach, but that does not help you nutritional wise. That's what we found in the country. People can go to bed with something in the stomach, but that is not nutritional, and that's so common, and that's a problem. So I'm one of those people who are born in a biosphere reserve, and I'm very proud of that. It's called the Vembe Biosphere Reserve. So this is where I spend majority of my adult life, like university life and stuff. There's a Opasberg Mountain, which is right on the north, as you said, up there, the mountain that divides. That's the highest of peak. It's 1,700 somewhere there, which also form part of that northern part of the Kruger National Park. And I want to talk about this now quickly. So I come from a little sort of village or countryside, we call it. This is the village in 2003 or so. So I'm born in 1986, 13 years ago, not so long ago, just now. And I went to like schools around here and whatever. But when I grew up, I noticed something. This I always want to talk about all the time. Because if you look at these rangelands here, there was just nothing. So its population is increasing. When I realized that when I was born, the world population was 5 billion. Now it's 8.1 billion. So that tells you we are moving. And those numbers speaks to what I'm showing here. People will start moving and building and building, building and building and building. I want to just focus into those. Yeah. Now that's what it looks like. It's people's homes everywhere. And it's not, people need land so they can go in and do what people do, settle in their own house and stuff. This is how I zoom into a village, a household. This is my father's where I was born. This is my parents' house. And this is how it looks like when you talk about household. We don't keep trees for the sake of trees only. We keep only edible things. All these are edible. It's the mangoes or whatever, any fruit you might think about. And majority of what you see is maize now. So we push everything that's native, and then just that has got serious problem. When you don't leave it bare like this, and this is a perfect ground, of course. When you do that, of course, you invite a lot of things that can just come and invade and become pests and stuff like that because of all these monocultures and stuff that is associated with pushing native things, right? And you invite things like this one. This is our pugnacious ant, the crazy ant. You have another cousin of this one in the islands above here, called Christmas Island, which is causing a big problem.
Christmas Island.
Not yet.
Yeah, Northeast Island land.
Yes, you don't need this in Australia, of course. Yeah, even us, it's our thing, but I can promise you, it's the name says it all. So those situations that are shown there, the numbers of these are really the main problem. And I'm getting so much calls now for people to, so these things is a pest or whatever stuff. But elsewhere where we're not settling, of course, commercial farmers will come in, and then this is what I do, commercial farm along the Opasberg Mountain. And this is amazing. This is macadamia orchard right in the middle of the mountain. So I'm showing this to show all these things. They push some of the native plants, and these plants are the same plants that things like this plant, the Brachyophylla, is taken out, and then which is a primary sort of food source for Singapore. They're mostly consumed, although not commercially, by caterpillar. Because I don't have where I'm coming from. There's no more trees. It's just a couple of kilometers out. So all these pushes all these trees out and stuff. All this development. Okay, so this is just a zoom into macadamia orchard that I was showing just now, showing what really happened. So this now have replaced all that native, which is a food source mostly for most of these edible insects, which is a big problem. As I'm wrapping up, I want to talk about this province that I've been at for the past 10 years. And then this is KwaZulu-Natal. We know it for the Zulu speaking people. And when you are in that province, you see two things that are dominant. It's thank you, Australia, for the territories. And the as well. When the first time I arrived here, I spent the night in Ellen's house, and then 12 years ago, then he drove me to the Zero house, CSRO house. And on my way there, I asked him, I have a lot of this investigators here. He looked at me. I don't know whether I was jet lagged or what. He looked at me like, this is home. It was very fertile. So we've got a lot of these in this province, you know, and then the nearby province here, Pumalanga, and the sugarcane as well, and a lot of this. All these, I'm saying all these things to quickly wrap up about insect biodiversity decline. I don't think it's really for us for now. It's nothing much to do with us consuming, you know, the consumption or whatever, but it's just habitat loss. It's a big problem that we experience in the continent. You know, as we find places to either plant our crops or commercial timber like that, timber conditions, or just making way for our own house or human settlement. All these things, I think it's besides climate change, these human habitat loss, us converting these natural lands into these things is one of the biggest problems that we're experiencing now in the country. So this is just map of KwaZulu-Natal showing how between 1994 and then 2011, how much of transformation has happened. You know, this sort of situation where you see all these grasslands and these forests that are right within, in between these grasslands and stuff, being pushed away to make way for all these developments and not only do sort of things, which might be a problem. Lastly, because of the global change or climate change, all those things, like, you know, so this is Tutu, the biggest, one of the oldest park in the continent, you know, this Tutu Influence Park, which, you know, these woody areas are expanding into this, which is a phenomenon which has been dominated a lot. This has been expanding into all these open lands, and we know what happens. Let me try to show this or talk about this many times, because that will lead to pushing away the stuff that are all the assemblages that are associated with open savannas, and then that's a big problem, because that will, again, we're losing habitat. But this is happening naturally. We don't have to do much. As we continue doing whatever we're doing as humanity, this will be also happening on the side as well. Yeah, so I don't want to talk about the future research, but there's a lot that's to do with taxonomy, which I think right on top of the list for me is the most important thing, because of the 500 or so that species that we know that are edible in the country, but I think there's more that we need to work on. I can promise you, with all the work that we've done, for ants, for example, we just know less than 700 or 800 species of ants. And then we'll tell you about 1,000 species of one genus, just here. Not even genus or sort of thing. So those sort of things is a really big problem. But I see now there's a big push for farming insects. You know, I don't know how that go around or how we're gonna do that. But one of the biggest problems that I'm seeing now is the declining entomophagy, which is an issue in a country or in a continent wherein most people are, although they're going, some of them are going to bed with something in their stomach, but it's not nutritious. So that will really raise awareness. So look, this is really available. Maybe we'll see also the way that we can develop our villages and everything, or human settlement, but we give way, or we allow these trees to make, because these trees are eaten by the same food source. So yeah, I would like to sort of end it here before the next 5 minutes stops. Thank you.
That's wet by appetite. Any questions first for the live audience in person?
You were talking about at the end there about the habitat loss and conversion for agriculture and stuff like that. I know in South America in particular, they are trying to sort of shift toward, you know, like shade-grown coffee and those kind of more ecologically stable farming practices. Is there anything like that going on in Africa? Or
Not where I come from. Now in South Africa, it's just push everything. I've shown that, you know, that's a very good way of, you know, as you said, you know, just put the coffee in the existing sort of thing. There's not, people just go and push. This is my land here. I'm gonna push everything out, make way for my crop or my house.
do you think that practices like that could be encouraged if you sort of raise awareness that, okay, these practices are impacting the insects and things like that, and if you want to have these insects that you like to eat, you should try to engage in these, like could you use entomophagy as a mechanism for conservation by saying, hey, if you change your farming practices, maybe you'll be able to maintain these species that you like to eat.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to be doing anyway. And like I said, I was so glad that we're trying to get television time, and you know that people on the ground can see that. Look, you love Mopani worms, and if you really love them, you're going to need to also conserve the primary food source, which is the mopane tree. You continue at this rate very soon. Already we are bringing in so much mopane from the other countries because they have a lot. They still have a couple of that. But if we continue the way we are going now, but we even need to raise that awareness to say that for us to practice this traditional way of doing things, we have to figure out how to also protect the primary food source for these insects.
Can I just make a comment on that? I think a big issue is there's so much poverty, and a lot of the people pushing out and encroaching is subsistence living. It is so poverty driven that I don't think it comes to sustainable crops and things like that. It's subsistence.
Yeah, I'll talk about mobile tree quickly as well, just to support what you say. The tree, as I said, is a good source for fuelwood as well. It's an excellent fuelwood. So most people harvest it and also sell it. So it's an excellent fuelwood. So you go to town, people will be giving these nicely cut wood for $50. So
are there any mopane plantations? Like, is there any push to sort of increase the plant?
the university was trying to farm it. I don't know how far they went. But I don't know. There's nothing. Everything is natural now. We're just depending on the natural mopane felt. So there's no one who's planting. It's a very strong tree. I don't think you can just plant it like a corn or something and just grow it. It's a very hard tree. You've seen it in the Kulapa as well. There's nothing really natural that people will farm it in. Nah.
Yeah, I'm from Mexico, and I know we eat a lot, and the demand is growing. But I like to turn a bit the focus of animal crops, natural vegetation. The grasshoppers over there, they harvest on animal crops, lucerne, beans, and so there is an association where we are not encroaching on natural habitats. We have a symbiosis with our animal harvest, and it's a plus benefit because you are reducing now by that practice the use of pesticides as well, and also employ people. And the demand for these insects, especially grasshoppers, is going up. What was considered just a food for the poor now is becoming fashionable, and for the G devils that you have to have always on the fridge back with the grasshoppers to add it up. So I don't see that might in this case be a challenge of natural habitats, but it's probably a benefit. So,
I think that's on that one. Our grasshoppers mostly
Grass.
Not really in there, but we put some other caterpillars that like the grasshoppers. They are pests. Some other caterpillars that we harvest off the crops. That is a win-win. Because people then go and take these caterpillars.
people, you reduce the use of pesticides.
Yeah. And look, I always look at the swarming grasshoppers. Please look at just they must swarm that part of Mama. We will eat them so much. We will fry them a lot of them.
I wonder if the problem is that the land uses that are so common, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, sugarcane, eucalypt plantations, they're not conducive to that.
For sugarcane, the biggest pest of sugarcane in that part, I don't know as here in Australia, but is something that don't eat. It's also a caterpillar as well.
You can eat it?
No, sorry. Yeah, what's the name? I'm forgetting the name of that caterpillar.
It's not the beetle larva that the cane toads were brought into.
No, we've got a beetle larva, but we've got also a moth as well. That is a big problem. That's across the province. So there's even a research institution that just focuses on this pest. It's just a nasty moth. That's it. I wish we did that one. If we did that, it would be amazing. Maybe we must start thinking about it. But yeah, I'm agree with you.
Ali, did you have a? No. Zach, anyone online?
No, not yet.
I was going to ask Caswell, with the caterpillars, a lot of them have those warning sort of colorations, but that's just a sham, is it? They're not actually poisonous. Like you know, you sort of think that they've got these warning colours to stop predators eating them, but they're just pretending.
Look, you know which was it's not like every caterpillar. I've seen some other ones with serious warning that you're like, no, this is serious, and for some reason we don't give them.
Mm.
You know, it's like some of the milky insect, the autocrans that secret some liquids, whatever. You don't need that. Anyway, no one eats that, you know, sort of thing. But mobile, for example, those spines, when you chew and the termites, you do lose some of your inner. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we do feel like good things to do, and then touch.
Cutting all the way down.
Yeah, you know, they'll be looking at their head like that. And they're, you know, so as you are busy grinding them with your teeth and all whatever you do, you know. Same thing with Mopani. When it's much better, that's fine. Still, it's fine. You know, you do, but look, it does not scare us. That's really. But yeah, the question, I'm not sure about some of the characters in the questions that might have. So there might be some that are really, or in most cases, of course, just to say, stay away from it. It's so common among caterpillars or most butterflies anymore. This is the one that looks like a snake and whatever. You know, it's not a snake. You know, stay away from it. You've seen the caterpillar, butterfly, whatever.
Yeah.
That looks like, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think it's most of it is just to say, I will bite you, stay away.
Do you ever see, or like, you know, like the foodies and people who want to try new things and new recipes? Do you ever see like dishes that are, you know, like with insects that, you know, not just eating the insect whole, but like a dish that has insects, you know, within it?
Yeah, this is where we're going now, actually. We just teamed up with microbiologist food, food. Microbiologists and also the food scientists in the college, in the department, wherein we are grinding this into powder, then that was not scary.
Yeah.
And then we put it, when you put our traditional porridge, you can add that to increase the nutritional value of the porridge, because it's just carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So we are developing a lot of food products that have got this, because the traditional way of cooking this is always boil, put salt, put in the sun or sun dry, or cooking oil, and that's it. Eat crispy. But now we're grinding it into powders, insect flour, and then putting into baked. You can buy insect flour today online. You can put in your baking stuff. I don't know how that works. But yeah, we are doing some couple of studies now where we are trying to see. There is a chocolate you can buy, chocolate bars, you can buy and take a lot. We've got an online, take a lot, online shop that we can buy this in the country. That's part of it. So that's what we go, just to encourage people to eat. And also to just increase the nutritional content of our what we call traditional food. We are doing the other day. That is pap or porridge really an African traditional food? No, it's not. You know, it just came through, you know. But I was saying with the other day, it's not really something, but that thing is, we consume a lot of that. And everyone every day eats that. So if we can add this nutrition in the powder in a way that's not scary, so for those who don't want to eat insects, maybe we can increase the nutritional content composition or uptake on a daily basis.
Yeah, so we've got a great home love dish in terms of meat pies, we all know. And you get various gourmet versions of meat pies.
Yeah.
So I think grasshopper pie and
powder,
pie would be.
Yeah. I don't know what pest do you have here? I mean, the pest pest.
Which pest?
Pest in the pest. The pest in the sugarcane. It's a beetle larvae.
Oh yeah, that's the one the cane toad was.
You must start thinking here about that. Grab dry. Sprinkle on your food. The pie that is about sauce. As he said, I mean, it's leading in terms of the country. It leads in the most species that I can. And you know, even Asian countries don't do books to And I like the fact that whatever they're consuming, it's the stuff that are problem. I would say, imagine you can solve a problem by eating it away.
Well, we better finish there. So we'll all you'll all have an opportunity to talk more to Caswell over morning tea, and you might be able to persuade Caswell to bring in maybe a bowl of termites and crickets next.
I was going to be responsible somewhere by Sydney when I came in. See that in Australia, they are very, very, very serious when it comes to things coming outside. I would love to brought a fish.
But join me in thanking Caswell.
Yes.